Okay, welcome back. Last week we made some observations in our notebook. We both made both quantitative observations and qualitative observations about the bacteria that we collected. Remember, the quantitative observations was the information about the numbers. We turned the data, the information in your Petri dish into a number. In this example that you see on the screen right now, remember that these students found 31 squares of bacteria at the cabinet door handle and 21 squares of bacteria at the front entrance door handle. And then they also made some qualitative observations. They drew what they saw, and they wrote about what they saw. They used color to show what they saw. All right, so we have our observations, and so the next step is for us today to turn this information into a data table and a graph in your notebook. So what I want you to do is I want you to take the quantitative results here. Okay, so for example, cabinet door handle and the front entrance door handle, and I want you to turn that into both a data table and a graph. And you can use the graph paper that I have up on the small table in the middle of my classroom for your graph, and I want you to glue that in your notebook. Okay, when you're done with that, what I want you to do is I'm going to ask you to go to let's see here, we're going to go to Discovery Ed, and in Discovery Ed, in the under the bacteria inquiry investigation, okay, I've added a couple steps for you to do next. These are the things that I want you to do now that you're done collecting your data. Okay, so we're on step number 9, okay, which is to create the data table, put it in your notebook. And then the next step, kind of the final step that a scientist would take when they're doing an investigation, is to share what they found with other scientists. So we're going to share our work today with our classmates, and we're going to do that through a presentation. We're going to make kind of a slideshow of the different steps that we made, and I'm going to assess you on this. I'm just going to be looking for, how accurately did you use the steps of experimental design that I taught you in class. And in class, I'm going to give you a scoring guide, okay, for this. This is what the scoring guide looks like. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections. Okay, so in your presentation, what you have to have is a section called the research question. And right here, it's identifying the things that need to go into that section. You need to, you need to have how does affect question. You must identify the independent variable and the dependent variable. And you have to tell me what your 3 constant conditions were and really explain those, not just list them, but explain those. Okay, the next section, probably like the next slide in your presentation, would be about the hypothesis. And this is the information that should go into your hypothesis. It must be in the if-then format, must be testable, directional, and use the IV-DV properly. Okay. Then I want you to write out your procedures. I want you to really go back and think about what you actually did in your investigation. Do your procedures need to be cleaned up a little bit? Maybe changed based on what you did that might have been different when you actually went outside versus what you thought you were going to do. Okay? And the next step is I'm going to ask you to include a graph in your presentation. And I'm going to show you, I have a website that I'm going to use that will help you create a digital copy of the graphs in your notebook. And the last thing would be your conclusions, and that's going to be the very last lesson that we do this week. I'll tell you how to make a good conclusion and have you reflect back on your question and your hypothesis. All right, so let's take a look here. On my website, I have a section up here at the top called Student Work. If you go to like Homework Outline, these things are at the top. And if you go down on student work, you can kind of see these are some example presentations from students in the past. Okay, so let's check on Jake and Gregory's. Oh, nope, I'm sorry. That's not it. Wrong thing. We want to go to, there it is. Okay, let's look at Ben and Zach's presentation here. Let's, if you click on it, it opens a PowerPoint. So let's open this one up. And let's take a look and kind of see what this looks like when you're done. Now, this one's a couple years old, so the requirements might be a little bit different from what I'm expecting now as it was back then, but we'll take a quick look and see here. Okay. Let's start. So they have the I did ask them, these groups, to do a little bit of research before they started and make a concept map. You guys didn't have to do that. But here's their research question and variables page. You can see they have that how does affect question, their variables, the constant conditions. Now, they could have done a better job of explaining these constant conditions. They didn't do a very good job of that. Okay, the next slide is their hypothesis. This group did a really interesting study. They wanted to see how hitting a hammer on the tiles in the floorway affected the amount of bacteria. So they literally went outside and beat some tiles with a hammer. Okay, so there's their hypothesis. And then there's their procedure. Notice that they're numbered, that they are incomplete sentences, capital letters. They have some punctuation. You should have periods at the end. All right, there's their results. Look what they found out there. The amount of squares with bacteria in them. They kind of did it, they organized their data by the color. And you can see that the smashed bacteria had way less. So when you hit a hammer on tile, it really does kill the bacteria. And the unsmashed tiles had a lot more, which I thought was really kind of a cool investigation. All right, and then their conclusion. Okay, so this is what I'm going to grade. You kind of get an idea of you know, what I expect. All right, now each person is going to work on this individually. You're not going to sit together with your partner on this. You're each going to have the file in your computer, and you guys can work on it at the same time. Okay, that's the kind of the nice thing about Google. And when you're done, I will be able to see who contributed what. I can turn on a feature that will allow me to see, you know, who made what contribution. So I want to see equal contribution to your assignment, okay, at all times. We might have one day where we get together and just talk it over, clean it up, but right now we're going to work individually. All right, so that kind of sums up what we are doing for the next part of this bacteria investigation, and we have a lot to do, so get to work. Thanks.